Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. 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 Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
This is a rather difficult question to answer in the limited time a YouTube video can hold, especially for answering multiple questions. In the future, I'm going to place such a thing on the project poll I've started to conduct. For a brief glimpse of why, I'll just list a few examples. I hate Twilight because it was very poorly written. I hate Twilight because of the immaturity of the author, and I hate Twilight because of all the wasted potential. As for why I hate it so much, well, check out my Question Every Twilight Fan Wants to Know About Anti's video. It's easily found by just going to my channel page.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
Yes, I have really read Twilight. As you have noticed, I've been providing YouTubers and the Twilight Sucks community with an abridged form of the book. This would not be possible, at least not in the way that I go about it, without having the book on hand. As for its fans, I know fully well that the fans can be quite sensible when they put their minds to it. The problem is, though, that the fandom is fairly large, and thus its vocal minority is large as well. And it is with this vocal minority that I have had the misfortune to have had many interactions. I know beyond doubt that said vocal minority is indeed stupid. Sadly, though, this vocal minority isn't limited to any set age group. While, yes, the infamous teenage crowd does take up a good portion of it, I find that there is no group more disturbing than the Twilight moms.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
I already answered that I have, and thus we shall continue on. Just threw this in here so I can't be accused of avoiding questions.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
Not at all. In fact, I knew enough about Twilight to dislike it before having read it. Such knowledge came from interacting with the craze of the fandom, as well as research as to what the series was about, reading excerpts, and things of that nature. And since you'd be likely to ask why I bothered reading it, even though I knew that I didn't like it, there are two reasons. The first being so that no one can say that I didn't give it a fair chance, and the other is because I love a good argument, and the key to winning any debate is to know more about the subject than one's opponent.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
Not particularly. While I can become fascinated with some things more than the standard individual, I've never been truly obsessed with anything in the same way that the crazies of the Twilight fan have exhibited. I've never attacked anyone for disliking something that I enjoy. In fact, when someone says that they don't like something that I do, my typical response would be to shrug and say, "More for me." However, I usually try to discuss the matter with them so as to learn what their reasons are for not enjoying it.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
somewhat. Some of the more obsessed don't actually have anything to require a safe haven from, and calling it thus is quite melodramatic. However, I do quite understand the desire to curl up with a good book on a rainy day, or even to get lost in the story contained within the pages. However, there is a very psychological process involved with Twilight that causes much of the fandom to become obsessed beyond anything I have ever experienced. For information on that, feel free to look up Shmelia Rocky's You Are Bella project on YouTube. For ease, I'll be putting a link to the first installment in the description of this video.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
My take is that your question stems from a misunderstanding that the fandom tends to have. Maya did not remake the conventional vampire. She did not even do any research into what the conventional vampire even is, except for, according to her, when she was writing the bit when Bella did a Google search. Hell, she didn't even learn anything about folkloric vampires before writing Twilight. In the end, she wrote about what I call a fairy and mistakenly labeled it a vampire, simply because vampires are popular and would draw in a greater audience than the books would if she had called them what they were. If you want more info on this, feel free to watch my channel. The current leader of the project poll for my channel is something I've been promising my viewers for some time. Details on exactly why vampires are fairies and not vampires.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
They're alright, I suppose. Of course, since they became involved with MTV and the Twilight series, they'll become typecast and have a very difficult time of getting into any roles that are too far removed from the ones they've been given in Twilight. This is rather sad, as some of them have shown a decent amount of promise. When given a role that she actually enjoys, Kristen Stewart, for example, can perform quite well, as can Robert Pattinson. Hell, Michael Welch, the person who played the role of Mike Newton, is quite good when actually given a role that lets him cut loose. I'll be eagerly looking forward to seeing how he handles the leading role in Unrequited.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.
If you limit attacks to being in person, then no. More often than not, people rarely take notice of me outside the internet. I have, however, been called all sorts of things over the internet, for even so much as indicating that my opinion of the Twilight series was less than favorable. Obviously, the more openly I declare my dislike, the more vehemently I was opposed. As for attacking the fans, that would again depend. No offline interactions to speak of, but for online, of course I will fight back whenever attacked. If a person is less than of medium intelligence, I will more than gladly tell them so. If they are being completely absurd, they will know about it when they come against me. But, in the end, I don't care if a person is a fan or not. Again, feel free to check out my The Question Every Twilight Fan Wants to Know About Antis video that I'd posted shortly after my channel began. And that's the last of the questions you asked. Feel free to let me know if you have any more.
Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes. 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 Warner Music groups a bunch of assholes.